So sensory, touch, feel, senses, seeing, tasting, all those things are really important when you're talking about kids that have the effects of trauma. So, for instance, if you had an autistic boy, you might want to, or girl, you might want to give them frozen fruit. This also works for somebody who has had traumatic effect, because the frozen fruit gives them the sensation of calming. The fruit, the coldness in the mouth actually changes the way that the brain is moving, so that the chewing and the cold and all those things can kind of bring down body temperature, body reaction, and same as for a trauma informed classroom strategy. So I'm going to show you another one that has to do with the sensory of touch. So if you have a child who needs to have some touch to calm down, but of course we're in the classroom, this is a really great strategy. So I would have the student put their hand on a piece of white paper. On the white paper, I would probably start with using a pen. This is a pen that I stole from Terry's house yesterday. And what you would do is that you would start just tracing their hand. So the touch of the pen on the hand, as you talk to the person and the tone of voice and stuff like that, starts building that connection. Do you remember that connection that we talked about that the brain needs so that they can get out of that old crocodile or that old brain stem and they can go into the next levels? So physicality and touch then roll us into that cognitive. So I would chat with them and talk with them as I have their hand, talk about connections to whatever you need to, building that relationship. You know, if you were doing this with somebody for a while, then maybe if it was a child that you had a great relationship with, or a person that you might use your fingers so that you're actually physically touching them. This is non-intrusive. This isn't putting them in a place where they feel like they're overwhelmed, but it is giving them that connection of touch. And after that's done, you have a hand. So this hand I would often then use for them to remember how that made them feel. They can put their hand within the hand so that they have a place where they can remember that. They can do this themselves, where they start tracing over their own hand when they're feeling anxious. And this might even be the front page of what I would use for somebody's strategy book if they were having needed a book for them to remember strategies that they would use to calm themselves or put themselves in a better place. Now, the second that's kind of connected has to do with lotion. So if I have a child who I have a relationship with, this usually is with younger students, because as they get older, we all know that, that touching students and that physicality is a little bit different. But talking to a student and having a student have the connection of you actually putting lotion on their hand and talking to them, it's kind of the same but different. So it's in a place where you're just chatting with them and you're not being really aggressive. You're just actually putting the lotion on and getting them to calm down, right? That feeling that it is of just that calmness and the quietness and the touch. Remember when we did that tapping video that they talked about there being that spot right here? So anytime that you can kind of put a pressure point on that spot, it's lots of different cultures will have that as a pressure point. Chinese or naturopaths will use this as a pressure point. I think that there's some of the chakras and things like that. When they talk of those, they talk about those pressure points, and that one being on that side of the hand right here. So, you can even kind of put pressure on that as you kind of put the lotion in, talking in a soothing way. If this is too much, then I would say that you have the person put their hand out. Try to touch them in some way. If you just cup their hand when you then put the lotion on it, that's one way. Or if you put the lotion on your fingers and you put it on their hand in a physical way like that. Those things, just that much of physicality, that it just has to be simple like that. And then you model how you would put the lotion on your hands, and then they can then do that as you're talking. They can also put the lotion on your hands. Those are just great tricks on how to get sensory connection to calm somebody's blood, mind, body, and spirit.